once you begin to master your own frequency and your own resonance, you'll be able to become this magnetic version of yourself. And it's not just about being able to track things out there in the world, but it's also to be able to attract your gifts or amplify your gifts and strengthen those gifts and strengthen those qualities because you are allowing yourself to be in your own frequency.
Welcome to the Angelic Frequency Podcast. We are your hosts, Cristina Aroche
and Luisa, and this was one of my all-time favorite episodes. We had a fascinating conversation with Antonia Marie all about light language and dragons. You won't want to miss this. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome, Antonia. We're so happy to have
Hello.
you here with us.
Awesome, awesome. I'm so excited to be here again. Thank you guys again for welcoming me and even feeling like I can come here and share something with you guys. So I'm so excited to dive in today.
Yeah, we're so excited. And I wanted to share just a little backstory because I've had the honor and pleasure of meeting Antonia in person. We met, I guess, almost 2 years ago in San Diego at a retreat. And it was a retreat about like speakers and kind of developing your voice and things like that. And I still, Antonia, to this day, will not forget how you went up there and you channeled the dragons. And I remember experiencing the dragons and that dragon energy. And I remember being like, whoa, like blown away in that moment of like having that experience, feeling that they were literally around me and coming through and just all of that. And so that experience has always stuck with me. And I'm so glad that we've been able to just stay connected, stay in touch over the years, and just kind of be in the orbit of one another's worlds, in and out and things like that. But it's been interesting coming back to kind of that experience around dragons and things like that. And I know there's so much that you do beyond that. So let's just start off by, with you sharing a little bit about who you are, what you do, how you came to this, like, all of that. It's so fascinating.
Oh, thank you again. Yeah, it's been almost 2 years and it's so wild how fast time goes. But again, my name is Antonia Marie Lawrence. I am quantum healer, shamanic channeler, light language activator. And for me, my purpose here in this earth is to truly anchor more light into this world. And I do that by helping others make transformational shifts in their lives, whether it's through light language, energy healing, feminine energetics, or sacred embodiment. And all of those things kind of tie into each other and they assist one another in our journey and our evolution. So I feel like those things that I am honored to be doing in this lifetime are all part of, how we're able to attune to more wealth, how we're able to make sure that we are mastering our own energy and our own frequency. And I think that's the most important part in order for us to continue to go on the journey of self-discovery and self-mastery while there's so many things going on in the world. And so focusing on those things and being able to have the tools that you need to make those transitions and those shifts is what I'm here to do and how I've been able to help a lot of people along the way. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to just continue to follow my path and be in the journey and to speak up the dragons because I happen to be a light language activator. I have the pleasure of connecting with so many different energies, but the ones that I like to focus on are the energies of the dragons and energies of the highest angels and Christ conscious frequency, of course, love frequency, all of the things that just really pulls us up out of everything that we're in. And dragon energy is one of those things that they can carry you into every realm, every dimension, and everything that you feel that you can't come out of, the dragons can be here to assist you. And so I just had the pleasure of connecting with the dragons and one day realizing I have this story that I tell sometimes that I remember doing ayahuasca some years ago, and I had this, journey through ayahuasca. But the next day was so amazing because we did something called changa, and changa, it just takes you into like the seven dimension is what I'll call it. And that's where I saw myself transform into like all of these different colors of dragons, and then this great white golden dragon. And at the end, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a dragon, you know? And so that's when like that instant connection began to happen for me. And at that time, my light language wasn't even online yet. I wasn't even, I was aware of light language because again, I do quantum energy healing, and my teacher at the time, she spoke light language, but I never thought that it was something that I was supposed to do. I thought maybe my journey was simply just helping women, because at the time I was doing like sensual movement, sensual embodiment, like all of the divine feminine stuff, and I was like, that's where my lane is. But as we all know, the journey goes, that wasn't the case, right? And so, yeah, as years progressed, my light language came online, and I realized then that I can channel dragon energy, and tap into these, other lifetimes and realities and consciousness to help, bring in more of the light frequencies and the light codes to help reawaken our bodies. We've been here, and we, are on our self-discovery journey where we're finding our way back home to ourselves, right? And so with that, it comes with us losing a lot of parts of ourselves. And so being able to tap into these different frequencies and energies, whether it's I'm channeling light language or dancing or doing physical energy healing, we're able to awaken those codes that are dormant, within the body. And that's just, what I've been having the pleasure of doing. And so, and unlocking those just, those secrets and those mysteries about ourselves of where we came from, multiple, lifetimes, and what races are we really connected to, because we're multidimensional beings. So of course we're more than just this physical body. And so having the honor and the pleasure to tap into that energy has just been a gift. And I'm just so grateful that I was chosen, but also that I said yes to even, accept the gift.
That's fascinating. There's so much to unpack, by the way, with everything. We could just, yeah, unpack that for hours. But I feel like, okay, I think we need to take a step back and start at the beginning with the basic definition and understanding of what is light language, and how does it work, and how does it come online? Like, how do you work with it? But I think maybe for our listeners who are not familiar with this concept, can you walk us through light language? What is it? How does it work?
Absolutely. Light language is, I would call it a soul's language. It's a language that many of us are coded with and have connection to and connection with, but we have forgotten the language, right? So it's almost as if you speak, I always say, I'm bilingual. Even though I don't speak Spanish or anything like that, right? But this is like my other language, my second language, right? But when you speak light language, or when you hear light language, I should say, when you hear light language or you receive it, it's something that your mind will not be able to comprehend or understand, but your soul will be able to recognize it and connect to it, and something within your cells and your DNA begins to literally reshift and recode, and it can take you back to past lifetimes. It can allow you to journey through different realms and dimensions a lot more easy and a lot more with grace. It's almost like what's coming through is like it's a ushering of carrying you through this ancient technology, because that's truly what it is. It's an ancient technology, a soul's language that you physically and mentally may not be able to understand, but your body knows, your souls know. And so sometimes when people would hear it, they'd be like, I just feel it feels so familiar, or it feels like home, or it feels like I heard a message. And people begin to feel different things because it's the soul's awakening to remembrance. And so light language can kind of help you bypass that physical mind of the 3D of like, what does this mean? What is she saying? What is she doing? Especially like when you think about, energy work or healing, a lot of times, we're in our minds about what's happening, but light language kind of bypasses all of that. It just like and goes exactly where it needs to go. So when you're using it in conjunction with healing, you can kind of hit a part of the body, or a part of the DNA, or recode something that you wouldn't be able to get to, just physically or even on a conscious level, but you can kind of bypass that subconscious, energy. And when you speak light language, this is a language that, again, your soul is connected to, and it is a language that is not just connected from your past lifetimes. Or let's say, for example, for me, I'm connected to, Sirius or Atlantis, like Lemuria, like all of these different planetary places, right, that we have connections to. Your light language and your soul language can come from there. But then it's also a mixture of your ancestral lineage and that language that some of us forgotten, where our ancestors have come from and the work that they did here on the physical. So I think the beauty about light language is the combination, and that's where you really find the true medicine, and when it really just make a lot of impact, because you're combining, and it's a fusion of your ancestral lineage and your galactic lineage as well.
Wow.
Again, so many questions. Just
so fascinating.
It's fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. I guess next follow-up, so I guess it's unique to your soul, because if it's ancestral, if it's galactic, it's all connecting like little threads of things that you're carrying with you and the people who have come before you. Then I guess light language is your own unique language from your soul. But how do you become bilingual? How do you become fluent in light language? How do you learn? Or how does it come along?
That's a beautiful question. What's so interesting is that for me, I'll just give my personal experience. Mine came online because, I like to say I was going through a lot of shifts in my life, and I just really wanted to be in a place of surrendering. I didn't want to have any control over, what I thought my life should be anymore. I knew I had a purpose, and I knew I had a mission, and I surrendered and let go of what I thought it's supposed to look like. And I think that, as cliche and like not tangible as that seems, that's really a part of it. It's about letting go and surrendering to the divine, and knowing that I have a purpose, I have a soul's mission, and I'm willing to allow myself to be the vessel and show up anyway or exactly how that's supposed to be, no matter how that's supposed to look, and accepting where the journey takes you, and be willing to experience the unconventional, because as you know, light language is just really unconventional. And so when you sense that I'm unconventional, then you kind of awaken to the possibilities of activating your gifts. And the more that we continue to be in our purpose and surrender, then the more we can go to next levels of our gifts, right? But again, as I said, this wasn't the first thing that I personally experienced. It first started with me, where I started to just simply trust my intuition, where I simply started to trust those nudges or those whispers that I would hear. Or, I decided to be a channeler and a reader. And at the time when I first started my journey, I was doing like oracle readings and tarot card readings, and just really just communicating with the divine, right? And when you allow yourself to, again, to be that vessel and just to be open and receive, that's when your DNA begins to start recoding. And the more that you go on your journey, and the more that you are in that surrendering phase, then more of your journey begins to unlock. And sometimes it may come with some shifts, like walking away from relationships or people, or choosing to walk this path when it's the unconventional route. And again, as simple as that sounds, that's one of the keys. It's just simply trusting and knowing that I am here to shift the world in whatever way that that may be. And I'm here to really awaken my gifts, and I want my gifts to come online, because we have to be willing to accept it, right? Because if we are so opposed to the gift, like, oh, I don't want to be a channeler, I don't want to do that, I don't, we begin to kind of turn off parts of ourselves that are keys to the next level that we must unlock. And every step on the journey is something that is unlocking to connect us to the next one, right? But so if I would have never trusted my intuition and my voice to listen to those whispers, if I never decided to say, okay, I'm just gonna, you know jump in the pool, go on the deep end, and just start showing up online doing readings when I never done that before, right? Trusting to go to my, my altar, or to simply listen to the things that I feel within my body to do. Like, I'm feeling like I need to dance today, so I'm going to dance. And then I realized that dancing was a way for me to communicate with my ancestors and communicate to what I, have learned over the years now. Dancing is a part of awakening and opening up, the spirit world, right? If you look at a lot of like ancient practices, even if you go down to like the indigenous cultures, like we would use like drumming and dancing to open up portals and to open up spaces and ritual. And so again, it's like just surrendering to what it's supposed to look like and being conventional, and listening to those simple nudges is what is going to begin to make the shift to unlock those little, steps. And those little steps and the trusting of it is where you're going to realize and start making the connection, right? But let's make it tangible, because it's like, okay, that sounds all cool, but I want to do it today.
Surrender, but
Yeah,
where's
you're right. So it's like, okay, well, what do I do if that's something that I wanna, I feel like I am connected to, or I feel like this is something that's a part of my journey? I think the first thing first is to, outside of the surrendering and trusting, is to ask yourself, why are you doing it? Right. And so when you discover, like, why am I doing this? Or why do I feel like there's a need for me to do it? You begin to kind of unlock some things, because I don't want to say not everyone is a channeler, but not everyone, how should I say this? In the beginning of your journey, I'll say it like this: in the beginning of, let's say, becoming connected to light language, you may not speak light language. But if you're so focused on trying to speak light language, then you're missing a part of your journey, because light language can be used in multiple ways. You can speak it, you can sing it, you can draw it, you can write it. There's so many ways, right? There's not one way to do it. But if you're so focused on, I want to sound like that, or I want to do that, then you may be missing your unique medicine, right? Because maybe you're here to draw light language and be an artist of that. Like, I have a great friend, she's a tattoo artist, but she tattoos light language, and she draws paintings that are coded with light language, right? She may not call it that, but that's what it is. So it's just about, the tangible is, again, the questions, and asking if this is something for me that's a part of my journey. And then I actually have something where I have a 6-week program right now where it's called Sacred Divinity, where I actually help people open up their channels. And I think before getting to the light language piece, opening up your channel would be like one of part of the, what I would call like the basic fundamentals or the protocols you should take, because that is more tangible, where you're not trying to, and it's not to say that it's impossible, because we know right now with the growing of consciousness and the earth shifting, we can like activate something and be there tomorrow, right? But doing it but not knowing how to navigate it can be difficult, confusing, or you can tap into some energy that you may not want to tap into. So I developed these protocols to help you open up your channel, just to communicate with some people will call your higher self, or your true creator self. And when you open up your channel and you begin to just, again, trust those nudges, trust yourself, trust the voice, that begins to allow you to be more comfortable. And there's certain like activations and prayers that you can say. And when you use these activations and prayers, it can begin to open up that connection and allow the channeling and the light language to come through. Right. And I can always say it's important to, have a guide if you could, because again, if you're going into speaking light language, the first thing, and I did it, right, is what am I saying? What does this sound like? Am I saying it right? And we begin to get into our mind. And then once you get into the mind, you done messed up the transmission, right? You done, kind of, funked it up with, your other stuff in there, because you're diluting what's coming through, because you're questioning if it's right, if it's real, does it sound right? Is this potent? Is it this? And some of us would say, well, I don't sound like Christina when she speaks light language. And it's like, well, you're not supposed to sound like Christina when you speak light language. You're supposed to sound like you. So we can kind of get in our mind, which would also blocks us from connecting and communicating. So I hope that was a little bit more tangible for you.
Yeah, that's helpful. Again, still so many questions, but yes, I kind of get it. And it's just like angelic work. It's just the first step is just to develop your clairs. It's just you need to develop and open up your own channels, and then everything else will sort of find its way in and will come through, and you'll be able to channel. But I guess, Cristina, then my question to you as a channel, what do you think about this, and how does this come through for you?
Yeah, no, I love everything that Antonia is sharing, because it feels very similar and parallel to like kind of how I've kind of have seen that channeling opening up as well. And in that, how it starts with that connection to your divine self, to your higher self, to that like your soul essence. And that then allows you to also focus in on what your true gifts are versus it needs to be this way. Because I've seen that where people are like, I need my clairvoyance, I need to open this up. And if I don't open that up, like they're very trying to pressure, open up that particular clair, let's say, but actually they are more of clairsentience. And it's like, no, actually, if you leaned into what your true gift is and how it's meant to be for you, then the others automatically open up, but you need to lean into this one instead, not try to force it or control it and things like that. So I really love this. And I find it so fascinating because it really feels like, Antonia, as you've been sharing kind of your process, how you've walked through this, how you guide others into opening up in this way, that it really brings you into a space of surrender and trust versus expectation. This is how it should be. This is, and really empowering people to be sovereign in how it's supposed to be for them versus like you have to be in this cookie cutter box, like this is how you're supposed to do it, and I feel like that's such an important part of this. That's also been a huge part of my kind of always since the very beginning, like I don't want you to sound like me. I don't want you to channel angels like me. I don't think that you should be connecting to them like me. It's let's find out what your unique way is. And I really love that you bring that through in your work.
Yeah, thank you for that. Absolutely. To go back to, not to go too far back, but to go back literally to our creation, right, of us coming into this lifetime, into this world, like we are all unique. We are all coded completely different. And something that I was sharing with one of my clients the other day is that once you begin to master your own frequency and your own resonance, you'll be able to become this magnetic version of yourself. And it's not just about being able to track things out there in the world, but it's also to be able to attract your gifts or amplify your gifts and strengthen those gifts and strengthen those qualities, because you are allowing yourself to be in your own frequency, your own energy. We are all coded specifically to do certain things. And if we hone in on our unique skills and our uniqueness, literally, then we don't have to worry about what anyone else is doing. We can really focus on our own individual journey, because each one of us plays a specific part in the role of expanding consciousness. And so if we're trying to do what someone else is doing, then there's a part of the puzzle, let's say, that is missing. And until you fully accept who you are through and through, your frequency and your sovereignty and being in your own resonance, that's when you can really just show up in this posture of, this is who I am. And even if I don't know the entire journey, or even if I don't have all of my gifts, because guess what? Even though I'm here, I'm sure there's more gifts for me to awaken and activate and remember. And so but it's just the comfortability and the confidence of knowing, this is who I am, this is who I'm called to be, and I'm accepting that. I'm accepting that role and that position of where I am in my life. Then I feel other things will begin to move, and you will begin to literally move and walk with divinity and dance with the mysticism of it all, because that's what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And when we focus in on that and hone in on our own uniqueness, the world will begin to open up, our gifts will begin to open up, and it's just, a whole different experience.
Yeah, yeah. I have a question that came up as you were sharing that. And I've noticed that right now we're kind of in a phase of collective consciousness unfolding, all of that. I feel like there is a new wave of awakening that's happening. I feel like there's a lot more people who are kind of coming online and beginning to be curious and ask questions and discover these certain things. What would you say to someone who is maybe listening to this and they're like, wow, this sounds really cool, and like, I love this, and also maybe like feeling like they're quote unquote beginners, so to speak, or whatever? Like, where would you tell someone to start with that if they're like, I love this, but I truly don't know who I am or what my role is exactly. I just know that it's not this like 9 to 5 corporate job, for example. Like, what would you just say to someone who's just maybe starting, and how would you guide them to kind of get the ball rolling, so to speak, in terms of becoming more connected in this way, like you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Let's see. It's a really great question. I would say, for anyone that's listening and, coming into their own spiritual awareness, is for you to, again, surrender and trust the unknown, and know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and that every part of your journey that you have experienced up until now has led you to where you are and where you're meant to be. So you're not too late, you're right on time. And every piece of your story is a part of your awakening. If you go back and look over your journey of the things that you may have experienced and went through, it was actually an initiation. So everything that we are experiencing in our lifetime, if we look at it as an initiation, we begin to see where our gifts are, and that our gifts have already unlocked into us. So the next step would be to slow down, so you can actually do the self reflection, so you can see, for example, for me, in 2012, let's say, right, one of my cousins lost his life. But in that journey of that grief brought me into an embodiment of wanting to honor and take care of my body, right? There's
Mm.
another experience where in 2021, my twin flame transitioned and passed away, as well as one of my cousins. It happened 6 months apart. But in that experience, right, the grief and all of the things that happened, I saw it as an initiation of, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? And that I know I'm not supposed to be here, and I'm going to trust and leap and take the leap. So I took the leap, and I knew that I could not afford to not be in my gifts and utilize my gifts, because there was something for me to do here. So again, it's that surrendering and trusting. And then it's the stillness so you can have the self-reflections, because guess what? Your gifts are already there. The only thing that you need to do is remember them and then maybe strengthen them, practice in those gifts, right? And so that would be the next step. Again, once you find out, oh, you know, I am kind of intuitive, I'm always feeling like I know when something is going to happen, then you begin to practice that intuition, practice sharing your voice, right? Because everything is connected. And if we don't share our voice, even if we're just speaking up, for example, if I'm going to go to the store and I know someone shorted me change, am I going to bypass it, or am I going to speak up and say, hey, I'm missing something, right? You didn't give me everything that I have here. Or if I'm going out to dinner and I ordered, you know, my meal a certain way, but it comes to the table differently, am I going to be afraid to, you know, send it back or challenge the person who brought my item because out of, I don't, a fear of, I don't want to ruffle any feathers and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But no, it's an experience for you to use your voice and allow yourself to speak up for yourself, right? And so it's little nudges throughout our daily life where we are embodying the gift. So if we pay attention to our daily lives and really be intentional about our living, that's where we show up the most. That's actually where we should be more spiritual, right? That's actually where we should be walking in our purpose and in our gifts. If I am, you know, the ancient mystic Antonia Lawrence online and I'm sharing light language and I'm like, oh yes, everything's great, but I turn off my phone and then I go outside and you know there's someone walking and I don't speak to them, or if I go to the store and I'm not being nice, or you know, it's just like those little things we that gives us the opportunity to show up in our gifts, to show up in our truth. Are we going to give grace, or are we going to activate our sacred rage where we know we need to tell someone where they got us messed up at? Because if not, then that is me surrendering to being walked over or being pushed over, right? And so I know that sounds like, again, where is the thing of how I do this, right? But that is how you do it. That's how you practice your gifts, you know, with your with your friends, with your family, with your partner, with your children, if you have them. Like I have a daughter, she's 18 years old. And I always say she was the person who first activated my gifts, right? Because our children are very intuitive and they're very, you know, into these different, you know, things, especially when they're really, really young. And so when we pay attention to even our relationship as a parent, what is this relationship here to teach me in parenting? Because you're being a leader in that instance. Even though you're her mother or father, you're a leader. So how can I show up and lead other people if I can't lead in this relationship, right? And so it's about those daily practices that is strengthening the gifts. It's activating them and it's strengthening them. You know, the argument with your partner, are you going to, you know, get frustrated because they're not hearing you or understanding you, or are you going to take the deep breaths in and say, you know, let me not make accusations, let me make sure what I'm saying is clear, right? Because being clear is also a part of being a clear channel, and it's a part of using your spiritual gifts. So we are literally using our spiritual gifts every single day. And I think the more that we stop separating the spiritual from the physical and allow it to merge and be in the physical, because that's what it is, right? At one point in time, we because we are spiritual beings, but there was a one point in time at Earth where that's how everyone walked the path. They were in their divinity through and through. That's how they showed up. That's how they operated, right? So if you take that, if you're just a spiritual being, which we are all a spiritual being, right? We're all have a soul and a multi-dimensionality, and we're just having this earthly experience. If we take that and say every day is a journey of mastery, and every day is a journey for me to strengthen and awaken and activate my gifts, then every day is a game, and then we're really playing the game of life where we are now doing the work outside of showing up online, because that's where it matters most. It matters in the community. It matters with our family and friends, because what a disservice would it be if we're showing up in the world as healers, as channelers, but we have horrible relationships in our lives. And it's not to say that things don't happen, but how are you allowing that to transmute it, but how are you also showing up in those spaces when you can show up, if you're able to show up as that being, because that's where the true gift and spiritual path begin. And when you do that, you're already there. You're already there.
Yeah.
Amazing, and so simple but so deep and so true. And we were having a similar conversation about this. It's how you move through the world that makes a difference, and how do you connect and how do you show up for life and with that higher perspective, and that the spiritual path is not something separate. This is it. Daily life, your relationships, walking the dog, talking to your daughter, like that is the spiritual path, and that is the work that we came here to do on earth. So when you play the game and have that higher perspective, that your spiritual practice is here and just daily life, regular life is here, it's just one and the same. And if you move through life with that awareness and playing that game, then that's how you open up. That's incredible. Thank you for that perspective.
Absolutely.
And so, okay, the more you open up and surrender to yourself, the more you walk the path and live in your spirituality, the more open you are to just for that light language to come through. And from if I heard you correctly, that is then what allows you to channel higher frequencies, whether that is angels, dragons, or love, or divine feminine, whatever that is. Then you just establish another language in which you communicate with those higher frequencies. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would definitely say that that's part of it, because again, once we master ourself and our own energy, we're going to be able to naturally raise our own frequency and our own vibration, right? Because one thing that I was sharing earlier about light language is that, and I'm not sure if any of you had this experience, or any one of the listeners, but it's happened to me. When I first got into the journey of light language, I went on YouTube. I went on YouTube and I was just like, oh, typed in light language. I think it was like a ISIS activation or something. And oh my God, I listened to the activation and I felt so bad afterwards. And a message came to me and it was like, you have to really make sure where you are sourcing, these channelings from, because not everyone not everyone is able to hold certain frequencies and higher frequencies, and your frequency is totally different, and so you have to be mindful of that. And so I think a lot of people skip that part, or because it's a trend, or it may be trendy, or it may be cool, that you're just trying to jump into doing it and you're missing the part of raising your frequency. And the reason why I say that is because the more that you raise your own frequency and your own vibration, the higher and higher you're going to be able to channel and connect to, and the energies that you're going to be able to work with. For example, dragons are very, very benevolent beings, but the energy is very, very powerful, to where if you're not great at grounding or know how to ground yourself, it will like knock you over. Like the energy is just so vast and so big. Like just imagine, just think about dragons, right? Think about like like if you think about like a dragon movie, like on cartoons, or even when they try to make them, demonize them in the Western, movies and stuff. They're big, they're huge, they're blowing fire, they're doing all of these things. So just imagine when you are connecting to that energy in a spiritual, physical body. If your vibration and your frequency isn't in that alignment, then you're either not going to be able to make the connection, or it's going to be tainted, or distorted, because you're not actually reaching the pinnacle of their frequency and of their energy. And so maybe you are channeling something a little bit on a denser side or on a lower vibrational side, and that's not what you want to do. So the more that you are in your frequency and awareness and you're raising your own energy, the higher you're able to connect and the higher beings you're able to connect to and work with and communicate with. And you do that with prayers, activations, energy clearing, clearing your own energy body, making sure again that you are protecting your channel, when you are opening up your channel, because you can open up your channel and all sorts of things is going to want to come through that bad boy, right? It's like, oh, channel's open, let me jump on in there. And it's like, well, no. So you have to really command the energy, who you're and what you're wanting to connect to and what you're not going to connect to, and set up those protection layers for yourself to make sure that nothing that you are not calling in or calling forth is coming through your channel. And once you kind of develop those different protocols, then you know and for sure and trust this is what's happening. This is real. I can trust this, right? Because like in the course that I have with my students, they're doing the protocols. They're just like, but is that really what happened? I'm like, well, absolutely. That's what happened. You protected yourself. You have these protocols up so you can trust what's coming through. You just have to listen and literally surrender to what you're experiencing and not being in your mind about it. But yes, the more that you raise your own, it's something that I call it BVR, right? And it's like, how you have like your metabolic rate. I call it BVR because it's your base vibrational rate. Where are you vibrating at your base level? At your base level, when you're not doing anything, where is your frequency? Where is your energy? Because that's where you're always going to default to, is that BVR. So if your BVR is, not at, 100% of love, light, and above, then you're not going to be able to come in and channel 100% love, light, and above. There may be some things of the ego that comes in with the channeling or the message, because again, when you are channeling certain, and I know Christina knows this too, like when you're channeling certain energies, especially when you're working with higher consciousness energy, there's no judgment. There's no judgment. None. So when someone's channeling, and they're saying, oh, it's coming through that you shouldn't do, or there's no judgment. Our angels, the dragons, Arcturians, or what are Christ consciousness, any of the things that you're trying to channel, they're not going to say you did this wrong and you should have done this. None of that is what you're going to be experienced. There's a no judgment zone.
Yeah.
And so it's about trusting and knowing yourself enough to know if there's more work to be done before sharing it. But of course, practicing with yourself is where you're going to get there. But yeah, continuing to work on your own energy and your frequency is what's going to allow you to connect, channel, and work with those higher energies for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the concept of the BVR. It's so like, oh, it makes so much sense. And I feel like it's kind of that I've always been aware of that, but never had a definition to like be able to define it. So I really love that you
Now
put
you
that
have one
around it. Yeah, it's like that's the thing. Of course, exactly. And I always talk about too how that is affected by what we're consuming. So what are we consuming, not just physical food wise, but what are we listening to? What are we watching? Who are we speaking to? Like all of that affects your BVR. So thank you for bringing a term to that.
You're welcome. It's so funny. It came through when I was working on the course, and I literally channel dropped and it was like BVR, base vibrational way. And I was like, oh, that's good. Like, I need to use that, trademark that. But it's a standard. And when you have that standard, like, okay, what is my BVR today, or just in general, then you kind of, like you said, you're moving a little bit differently in the world and how you're showing up today, because your energy is a little bit, possibly like a little bit tainted based on what you're consuming, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, or whatnot.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So much to talk about. So those are all great definitions, and it's for channeling especially, and whatever's going to come through, and just being very clearing your channel and being a clear vessel so that all of these energies can come through. So important. Now, walking back to the dragon of it all. So just as we're more familiar with, like, let's say, an angel and divine beings that are here to support humanity in a certain way, what is a dragon? Why are they here? What do they do? Like, why are we connecting with that energy? Have we always connected with them? Is there a recent thing? Like, what is a dragon?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say the dragons are definitely here and present, especially when Christina made her introduction and talked about my speech. They were like, yeah, we're here. Started flying around. But, you know, dragons, what they want to share today and want everyone to know is they have been here since the beginning. And they have been a part of the galactic collective that has been holding the frequency of the earth. And so the dragons actually have a home, and it's called Agartha. And Agartha is underneath the earth. And if you ever go look up any pictures of it, I'm sure any nerd that's listening or watching is going to go do it. But when you look up different images of Agartha, it looks like out of a movie, right? It's so beautiful. The colors, there's trees, there's water. And what you end up seeing is that there's dragons all around the outer layer of it. And so dragons are benevolent, and they're benevolent beings similar to angels because dragons are able to go into these higher frequencies and higher realms and higher dimensions, right? But dragons are also able to go to the depths underneath the earth. So this means that they are able to kind of navigate all realms, all dimensions, and all frequencies because of their vast power, right? And because of dragons, just like any other being, there's not just one dragon. There's thousands of different dragons, right? There's elemental dragons where we have the water dragon, the earth dragon, the fire dragons, all of these different elemental dragons that we can have access to and connections with. Then there's also fourth dimensional dragons that can work in the fourth dimensional realms that we would have access to. There's dragons that are in the seventh dimension and the 12th dimensional realms, So with that being said, dragons, they're able to travel everywhere. And what they want to share too, in addition to that, is that the way that we have been operating in this world, in this lifetime, and how we've been able to still stand the test of time is from that dragon protection, right? And the work that they're doing behind the scenes. And one thing that is so beautiful about the dragons is that they are connected to each of us, and that if we also have access to having dragon guides and dragons to assist us in our journeys, especially as we are advancing in our spirituality, in our expansion in life, and as we're journeying through different layers of consciousness, we can call on dragons just like we would call on angels to specifically help us access certain transitional phases in our lives. We can also call on dragons to help us with our wealth, right? We can call and utilize like the black onyx dragon or the golden aura dragon. Like there's so many different dragons that, there should be a book out there about it. There should be, right? But I don't think that there is. But,
Write
there's
it,
so
please.
oh my God. So it's
Write
so
that
funny you
book.
say that. I know it's so funny you say that because I want to say it was like 3 years ago, it was prophesied that I was here to write a dragon book.
Yes.
I worked on it like partly, but I need to get back to writing it. Now, what it's going to be about, I have no clue, which is probably why I haven't really been writing it. Because as I was channeling the book, it was literally about my story, and I was like, maybe this is not the book I'm supposed to be writing. So I want to revisit it because it keeps coming back up. But yeah, so the dragons, they're part of the holy seraphim. You know, they are part of what they will call the dragon scrolls as well, where it's the dragon scrolls of like abundance, of the Holy Father, the Holy Mother. Like there's so many different layers to dragons. We'll probably need to be in like a 10-hour like conference call or something just to kind of like dissect who the dragons are, their place in this world, in this lifetime. But the main point is that they have been here since the beginning. They are still here now. And they're, which is why a lot of, people, or I should say myself, are like coming out speaking dragon light language and bringing the dragons to the surface again. Is because dragons are also connected, or they're one and the same. I don't even want to say in the connected, but it's one and the same to the serpent energy or kundalini energy. So we can kind of tap into the dragons for that awakening in our bodies as well. And so again, they've been so demystified and torn apart about who they are and how they're seen, and that they're demonic or evil, but they're not. They are powerful beings that can carry us and have been carrying us through many evolutions in the earth, and holding the frequency and the vibration of the earth's core to allow us to eventually transition into, I like to say, back into a fifth dimensional frequency, because I'm a firm believer that we once walked this earth where we were living in a fifth dimensional earth. That's not something that we're going to, it's something that we're returning to. And it's not just going to be a fifth dimensional earth, it's actually going to be seven dimensional, because something that came through to me years ago, actually came through to me, I think it was when I went to Egypt last year. But it's that if we think about like ancient times, like ancient Kemet, or all of these other past lifetimes, or these things that we have heard about in these mystical stories about what happened in the world. But I'm gonna just say ancient Kemet, Egypt, for example. If there was a time where they were building the pyramids and they were walking around as gods and goddesses, and they had the Sphinx and all of this great technology, they would have to have been at the fifth dimension or higher to even be able to create such a thing, right? So we've already been in the fifth dimension.
Mm-hmm.
We've already been there. The grid and the earth is already activated to that. And so it's just that a lot of other things have covered it up, or again, like we forget. But so it's just a remembering. And one thing that I know about ascended masters and even our ancestors or anything of that sort, and even if we look at ourselves as humans, we never want anyone to be like us, right? We always want them to be better. So if you think about it from that conception, that they don't want us to go back to the 5D, we've already been there. The journey is actually to ascend beyond that, for us to be able to, in our lifetime, to experience a seven dimensional earth or higher, right? Because we've already experienced it, whether we physically did or not. In this body, we've already experienced it on a soul level, on a consciousness level, on a spiritual level, and we can connect back into it instantly with quantum energy and light language and such. So we're not going back. We're moving forward, and we're not going to. We've already been there. So, with that being said, again, we can utilize the dragon energy to help us make those big shifts in the quantum leaps, because of their abilities to go in between all of these different frequencies, energies, dimensions, and realms and such.
That's so cool. So they basically work like they bring in that healing energy or help to transmute lower frequencies, let's say, that we're holding on to. Like, can you work with the dragons if, let's say, you're caught up in your ego or something and you're just like, I need to raise my VBR, like, you know, like that kind of a thing? Is that, it's like we can work with them in those ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like you can work with dragons for anything because of their capacity, right? And so you can work with them to transmute lower things. You can work with them to help you ascend and go to somewhere higher. Dragons are one of the energies that you can kind of utilize for healing, for wealth, for transmutation, for activation. It's literally, you know, that reawakening energy, the healing energy, the sovereign energy. Yeah. And so when you think of it from that perspective, the dragons are here to, you know, assist us, and that energy is very powerful and very potent, which is why it's like baby steps, you know, especially when you are like accessing it channeling wise, because again of the vast energy that it is. It's baby steps, but we all have access to them. There's no hierarchy, meaning you don't have to, again, be perfect to access their energy or connect with them. There's no judgment. You can be who you are. All you have to do is just kind of ask and be willing to receive them, because just like dragons and any other beings, they're not going to come intercede for you.
Right.
You know, you have to give permission. You have to ask. You have to be willing. And you can't be in like, yeah, I want it, but I don't know. They're not going to want to, you know, they're not going to do. Dragon energy is also like, listen, girl, I don't have time. You know, they're like not playing. You know, it's like, we don't have time for this. It's like, you with it or you're not. Like, we're not playing around with this energy. It's like, if you're ready, you need to be ready, and you need to be certain that you're ready, you know. And so it's very powerful. So you want to be mindful what you're asking for and what you're doing, because once you make that command, it's kind of like, okay, well, here we go. And what's coming through is, you know, the movie like How to Train Your Dragon. And then I don't know if y'all ever seen it, but you know, they're flying around. It's like once you get on and you latch on, they're taking off. Right. And I'm also reading this book. I don't know if you guys, her name's Rebecca. I can't remember her last name, but Iron Flame, I believe the name of the book. And it's about dragons, right? And in the book, it's about kids going to dragon school, basically. And they all ride dragons. And it's so funny because this girl, she was really a girl who she really didn't want to be in this space. She wanted to be a scribe, right? She wanted to be the one who read the knowledge, transcribed it. But turns out she had these powerful gifts, and she was chosen to ride the most powerful dragon that there was in the whole collective. And not only was she chosen to ride this most powerful dragon, but she also was the only one who was assigned two dragons, meaning the dragons chose her. The dragons choose you. So that's the whole point of what I'm saying. The dragons choose you, right? They're going to choose you if you're here to work with their energy, and they're going to choose you, you know, if you are supposed to have a guide, you know, with them. And so they're going to choose you. And in this book, it's so funny because everyone's like, how she gets not one dragon, but two dragons choose her. And they both happen to be the most powerful dragons that you know, anyone had ever seen or ever worked with. And one of them was like this mini baby dragon. And so yeah, it's just so beautiful to know and see and trust in that knowing as well, that you are chosen, and that when you are connected with that energy, they choose you as well. You know, it's a partnership.
That's so beautiful.
Amazing. So I'm just drawing the parallel with angels, because it feels like there's also personal angels, like guardian angels. So there seems to be also, like, if a dragon wants to work with you, there's like, they can be a master and they can just walk with you. But there also seems to be like larger like earth dragons that are kind of for the collective.
Absolutely.
If I got that correctly. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there, because for us, it's been a red dragon female red dragon that has been coming through our awareness in symbology, like on the street, like
I
in
love that.
events. It's just all over the place, and it's like, what is this red dragon thing? Like, what do we do with this? So, and this is kind of been an interesting discovery of learning, like, yeah, how to work with that energy. But also what I sense is that they are, and it makes a lot of sense now that I've heard about light language, that they're not so, hello Christina, we're gonna work on this today. They're not, that's not how they communicate, and it's more of a energetic connection and a light language type of communication as well.
Say it can be.
Work with, how do you
Yeah, I
talk?
mean, it can be just like that. Like they can communicate too, in all ways. Definitely they're like, don't limit us. Like don't put us in a box. No, they
Okay,
can
fair.
definitely, yeah, they can definitely communicate and talk to you. You know, and I'm sure Christina could attest to this too. It's about building the relationship. So
Mhm.
once you begin to, let's say, this red dragon that has been prevalent in your energy in your life, we can kind of, ask that dragon, like, what's the purpose? Like, what are you here for? What's coming through is definitely for support and also a message. So you can kind of communicate to ask, like, show me or give me the opportunity to expand this relationship again, but you want to be willing, right? Like, I am willing to make this commitment, and it's not like you're like signing an oath or a death oath or anything like that. But
Formal contract.
but it's just like, just saying like, yes, I'm willing to accept this relationship. Like I'm willing to accept this partnership or this co-creation. It could just be, in addition to something, is what I'm hearing, but we're not going to get into all of that. But yeah, it could just be literally like allowing them to kind of come in, and those nudges or those awarenesses are them like literally guiding you. And I just kind of see them like like brushing past you, trying to get your attention, and it's just like little sudden like nuances for you to be aware that they are there and that they're ready to show up. And well, not even ready to show up, they're ready for you to accept their presence basically, so that
Right.
they can continue to show up. And you can kind of decide how you want that experience to be. And one thing I've learned over my years of channeling and helping others with their psychic abilities or light language and their channel and such is that your connection to like your ancestors, these spiritual beings, dragons or whatnot, is also your control, right? Because we already know we have to be willing to even accept it, but you can also kind of tell them like what you want to experience and what you don't want to experience. You can also say like, for example, divine angels or divine dragons, like I feel, for example, sometimes I have to say like, there's so much going on. There's like, you're trying to activate me too fast, too quickly. Can you turn it down a notch? Like, I need to be able to operate today. Like, let's not go 20 million% today. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe that's not the direction that we need to go in. So what I'm saying and sharing is that this is a relationship, right? And just like we have our human relationships, we have our spiritual ones too. And so we can kind of set energetic boundaries even with our team, even with the dragons or our angels or anything like that. Because if you don't, they're going to like drag you, and pull you along the journey. And if you ain't ready, you like, oh my God, like you feel like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? I can't catch I can't catch my breath, and all this is happening, right? Then you can kind of get in your head, and like all kind of other stuff can start happening where you're like, this is too much for me. And so you can kind of set the boundaries and say, okay, I'm ready to have this experience, with you. I want to start communicating with you. And the simplest thing you can do is literally go into a meditation and invite that red dragon in specifically to surround you, cover you. And something that I would do, like, in a one-to-one or in a training session in my course, is like, let's invite that dragon energy in But what I would want you to do is feel that dragon energy. Where do you feel this energy in your body?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, dragon energy may show up in different parts of the body for you. You know, for example, you know, when I first started doing, you know, light language, I will be working with like Divine Mother Sophia, or like I may want to call in Set Isis, right? But I need to know where they connect to me in my body, because if Divine Mother Sophia is not in my heart, that's not Divine Mother Sophia,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because she comes to me in my heart space, you know, and everyone has their position, and you can kind of sense that and feel that. So that way, you know, and this is how you also make sure you're not like your channel isn't interrupted or interfered, because you know, because you built this relationship and this connection of, if it's the red dragon, what I'm feeling like, it's like on my back. Like I could, you know,
Yeah.
specifically this red dragon that I just feel it on my back, right? And so it's like, okay, that red dragon is here,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's like beginning to build that relationship and that connection, so you can know where it shows up in you. So you know it's a nudge. Okay, I know for sure that that's the dragon telling me I need to accept. You know what I'm saying? And then the next phase will be like, okay, how do you want to communicate with me?
Okay.
Are we having a conversation? Are you gonna, you know, tell me what to do? Like, again, build that relationship, build that trust, and say, well, you know, for example, if you're someone new that's listening on your spiritual journey, and this is with the dragons or anything that you're wanting to connect with, again, practice of where they show up in your body, and then see how that feels for you. And then when it comes to the communication, if you're not a strong, you know, clairaudient person, then don't ask for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, in the beginning, don't do that, because you're not going to trust it. But if you know that you're good with writing, right? For example, writing. So it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write, and I want you to give me a message to write out. And then maybe you're just writing, and that's how you're developing that connection and developing the relationship. Then you can kind of build that trust in yourself. Because I always go back to self, and it's like, okay, now I'm willing, ready to go to the next level of hearing you, where I don't need to write, but I can trust the guidance, right? And so it's just those little things that you can kind of do, you know, as beginner steps to help you, to where it's not like jumping all in and you feel like overwhelmed initially, or you don't have any direction or guidance, you don't know what to do, you know.
That is amazing. I can't wait to become friends with this lovely dragon. And yeah, I'll report back once we're besties and talking all this.
I have a quick follow up to that. So in Luisa's example, you know, she has kind of been like sensing the red dragon, and kind of it's been showing itself. What about in a situation where maybe there hasn't been like a specific one that has come through in whatever way? How would you invite in, like for me, for example, I'm kind of like, oh, I want to meet my dragon guys or something, you know, like how would you call on that, kind of setting that? Would it be similar in terms of just setting that intention to connect with the dragon energy, and then kind of from there sensing or tuning in like who you're feeling coming forward, like in that way? Or what would you do in that if it's not like you don't have a specific, like I'm going to invite the red dragon in to connect with me, you know what I mean? Like how would you start it off?
Yeah, I would definitely, again, you know, we kind of all have like a little dragon waiting on us, right? So I would definitely go into a stillness, a meditation, and, you know, really just get clear in your mind. And, you know, what I'm hearing for you, Christina, is like really go into ceremony, you know, go into ceremony, like make, like, you don't have to go all out, but that's what I'm feeling. Like, it's like you're going to do it big, like make this a big ceremonial thing where you are ushering in this dragon energy to come meet you and guide you. And you can specifically, what I normally would connect to is the High Council of Dragons. So that's what's coming through for you to do. Connect with the High Council of Dragons. And this High Council is exactly what it sounds like. They're a high council, and if you go into like a guided meditation with the high councils of dragons, they can kind of, guide you into this initiation, because that's what I feel like it is for you, into
Mm.
this initiations with them. And then this dragon will, show up and present itself to you.
Yeah.
And that will be a great way for you to kind of have your experience. And what's so beautiful too is they want me to share, like, your dragon also has a name, your
Mm.
dragon. Yeah, everybody's dragon has a name. So you can, and it's not like, oh, I'm gonna name my dragon like it's a pet, but
Right.
you can, your dragon will show itself. It may already have given you a name. You just don't know that that's your
Mm.
dragon, right? And so you can, even in this session, in this ceremony, you can see and sense if the name is ready to be appeared. Sometimes it's not. And also just let it be what it be. Like, don't try to go into it, and this is for you too, like, don't try to go into it with answers like, I already know
Right.
what the answer, I want this to be the outcome. Don't go into
Yeah.
that. Just surrender, because again, it's a gradual process. And so you may have to do it multiple times. Or, the first time they may show you one thing, and then they may even say you're not ready yet. You
Mm.
know, maybe not yet, And so, like, again, just to go back to the example, when I was leading my course, you know, one girl, she lives in Vancouver or something like that. And she was like, yeah, once, she was like, there's a river or something she would go to, and people would say that it was known for like dragon energy or something. So she said she went there one time trying to go in there and was like, yeah, I'm going to connect to the dragon energy. She was like, she got there and they were like, no,
No, not
like
so.
literally. Yeah, they were like, no, like, you're not ready, And so it's like,
Oh,
and so and then hindsight, she was like, I know I wasn't ready, and I know now I'm still not ready. So it's like, just go into the experience for what it is, and they're going to give you a message, give you some guidance. And if they're saying no, you're not ready, you can even ask, okay, what do I need to do to get ready?
Yeah.
How do I, get to this next level to journey with you, or whatever. But yeah, for you, for sure, call in that high council of dragons. And of course, if you want any assistance, I'm here for you. And but definitely make it like this ceremonial experience. And you too, you can do it this way too, and just really make that connection and see what comes through for you.
That's amazing. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for this. So
Of course.
so incredible. And this conversation has been so fascinating and so enlightening. And I'm so excited to do this and to apply everything that we've talked about. And I just think it's just been so incredible. And I wish we could continue to talk for another 3
I
hours.
know. I
I feel
know.
like we haven't even covered half of things that I want to ask you about and the
Oh my
course
God.
that
Well,
you do. So
there
there
always
might
could
be
be a
a part
part two.
two. Yeah,
Yeah.
part two in the works. Yeah, absolutely. That sounds amazing. And again, just want to say thank you. And before we end our conversation today, I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit about where they can connect with you, where they can learn more about you, about your work, your services, your course that you were mentioning, whatever you want to share. But how can people stay in touch with you?
So right now, the best form of contact of reaching me would be either my email, which is hello@mystichouse, HAUS.co, or you can find me on Instagram at the ancient mystic, which is the.ancient.mystic. It's a little bit, convoluted, but that's where you can find me right now. And the course that I was talking about earlier, I'm actually doing a new round of enrollment, and we're going to start some in January. So that's going to be super exciting to bring in new people to help them go and open up their channel and to begin to build that relationship with self, with higher self and source. That way you can kind of get comfortable and going into that next phase and journey, which I will be doing a light language course and a priestess program next year in 2026. So definitely stay tuned for that. where I'll be covering all things light language and connecting you with all of the different galactic beings and taking you through initiative journey so you can kind of make your connections with these beings. Because I like to, just a little tidbit to share, is that the Arcturians are also kind of like a gateway in between a lot of different energies and a lot of different connections. For example, like when I work with like the Hathors or, Hathor energy, you can kind of utilize the Arcturians as an intermediary if you're not able to reach a certain level, because the Arcturians are, again, one of the beings, or the beings that can kind of go between. And so they can be like the go between. So in the light language program, that's kind of like one of our first connections before getting into like any other big energy. So you can kind of, be walked through that journey, because, the Arcturians are all about that quantum technology as well. So yeah, I'm super excited about those things that are coming next year. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll be able to see all the things that I'm launching. And I'm kind of in this rebuilding phase, so the website will be up soon as well. Well, up again. Right now it's kind of in a hiatus. So Instagram and email will be the best way to reach me. And I do one-to-ones. Again, my course is available right now as a DIY. So if you do want to just jump in, you don't want to go through the enrollment when it comes back around where I'll be in it with you, you can just do it for yourself, and that is available. And Cristina, I can share those links with you so that way you can kind of drop them in wherever you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll definitely include those links and all the ways to get in touch and contact you in the show notes. So everyone who's listening in, tuning in, make sure to go check out those links in the show notes. And once again, Antonia, thank you so much for joining us today and for all of the incredible wisdom and guidance and beautiful energy that you shared with us. It was so incredible. And I am definitely looking forward to a part 2 with you, because it is.
Yes. Part 2. Yeah, because the dragons are like, we would have loved to do an activation, but part 2 for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Part 2. Yes. So thank you guys so much again for having me, for allowing me to be in this space, and for us to just have this community of sharing and chatting and talking. Outside of it being a podcast, I feel like just the communal aspect of it all, and us being able to just share our insights throughout our journeys is just such a powerful thing, and what we all need right now. So thank you again for inviting me to this space, and I look forward to next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was, one of my all-time favorite conversations. Thank you so much, and I can't wait for next time.
Yes, yeah. Have a great day.
Bye.